Hejin Kim stood at the large window of Station Proxima, her small hands pressed against the transparent metal as she watched the stars. At 8 years old, she was the first human child ever chosen for the Galactic Youth Assembly, and her heart raced with excitement. "Remember what we talked about," Dr. Daeho Park said softly, adjusting her formal blue uniform. "Just be yourself. You represent Earth, but you're also here to make friends." Hejin nodded, her black hair bouncing in its neat ponytail. The station's artificial gravity felt a bit lighter than Earth's, making her feel bouncy and strong. She watched as alien children of different species walked past them in the hallway. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few even glowed. The first 2 days of the assembly went well. Hejin shared stories about Earth's oceans, showed pictures of her pet cat, and learned about life on other worlds. But on the 3rd day, everything changed. During lunch break, a group of Araxian children approached her table. Araxians looked almost like human children, except for their silver skin and slightly larger eyes. Their leader, a boy named Rix, stood nearly 2 heads taller than Hejin. "We heard humans are the weakest species in the assembly," Rix said, looking down at her. "Is it true you can't even lift twice your body weight?" Hejin swallowed hard. "We're not weak. We're just different." The Araxian children laughed. "Prove it," Rix challenged. "Come to the exercise room. Unless you're scared." Hejin knew she should say no. Dr. Park had warned her about species differences, but she didn't want them to think all humans were cowards. "I'm not scared," she said quietly. In the exercise room, the Araxian children set up what they called a simple test. They wanted her to lift weights that were normal for their species, but far too heavy for human children. Hejin tried to back out, but they blocked the door. "Just try it," they taunted, "or admit humans are weak." Hejin attempted to lift the weights. Pain shot through her arms, and she fell backward. The weight crashed down beside her, missing her foot by inches. She scraped her elbow on the floor, and tears welled up in her eyes. The Araxian children roared with laughter. Other alien kids who had gathered to watch joined in. No one helped her up. "Look, the human is leaking water from its eyes," one of them shouted. "They really are defective." Station cameras recorded everything. But when Dr. Park reported the incident, the station authorities just shrugged. "Different species have different ways of interacting," they said. "Cultural misunderstandings are normal." That night, Hejin sat in their quarters, holding an ice pack to her elbow. Dr. Park's face was red with anger as he sent messages to Earth. "They think we're weak because we're peaceful," he muttered, typing furiously. "They mistake kindness for weakness. Well, they're about to learn something important about humans." Hejin looked up at him. "What's that?" Dr. Park's eyes were hard as steel when he answered. "That the most dangerous thing in this galaxy isn't strength or speed or advanced technology. It's making a human child cry. Because when you hurt one of our children," he paused, sending the final message, "you face all of us." The message, along with the video footage, began its journey to Earth. In just a few days, the galaxy would learn why humans had survived countless disasters, won impossible wars, and thrived in the harshest conditions. They would learn why Earth's symbol was a planet of blue oceans and green lands, not covered in weapons or warships. They would learn why the old saying was true: "Beware the anger of a gentle species." The video of Hejin's bullying reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning. Within hours, it spread across every screen on the planet. In Seoul, a mother dropped her coffee cup watching Hejin fall. In New York, a classroom of 3rd graders fell silent as they watched alien children laugh at their peer. In Lagos, a grandfather's hands shook with rage as he saw the station authorities dismiss the incident. Captain Du Young Ryu sat in Earth's Central Command, watching the video for the 10th time. His coffee had gone cold hours ago. Around him, other military officers stood in silence, their faces dark with anger. "Play it again," he ordered, focusing on the Araxian children's faces. They planned this. Look how they blocked the door." The video spread like wildfire across Earth's social media. Hashtags like #ProtectAgen and #HumanityStandsUnited became the most talked about topics worldwide. Parents posted pictures of their own children, demanding action. Veterans offered to come out of retirement. Dr. Park's official report finally reached the Earth Diplomatic Corps. He had attached medical scans showing He-Jin's bruised elbow and elevated stress levels. The doctor's words were careful and diplomatic, but his anger showed through. They targeted her because she was human. They chose weights they knew would hurt her. This was not a cultural misunderstanding. This was deliberate cruelty. In Washington, D.C., Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, Sun Mi-Kang, prepared for an emergency meeting. Her assistant rushed in with more news. "Ma'am, the Araxian Empire just released a statement. They're calling humans oversensitive and saying we're unfit for galactic society if we can't handle simple children's games." Ambassador Kang's face didn't change, but her hand tightened on her desk. "Simple children's games," she said softly. "Is that what they call forcing a child to lift weights that could have crippled her?" She stood up and straightened her suit. "Send a message to all Earth's military stations. Tell them to prepare for Protocol 7. Across the solar system, human ships began to move. They were careful, quiet, and didn't look like they were preparing for war. After all, humans had learned long ago that the best defense was the one your enemy didn't see coming. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Jai-Yun Lee received the message while watching the video of He-Jin. She remembered her own daughter at that age, remembered teaching her to be kind to others. Her finger hovered over the ship's communication panel. "Message to all ships in the 7th Fleet," she said. "Begin Standard Patrol Pattern Delta, and watch for my signal." Back on Station Proxima, He-Jin sat in her room, unaware of what was happening. Dr. Park brought her hot chocolate and tried to smile, but he kept checking his communication device. Messages were pouring in from Earth, each one making his eyes wider. "Are you okay?" He-Jin asked him, noticing his worry. Dr. Park looked at her and finally gave a real smile. "Yes, little one. And soon, everything will be better. Earth has heard you." In space, human ships moved into new positions. On Earth, factories began switching production lines. In diplomatic offices, messages were prepared. The Araxian Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had judged humanity by its kindness. They had seen humans' preference for peace as weakness. They had hurt a human child and laughed. Now they would learn why humans had survived every disaster their planet had thrown at them. Why they had reached the stars not through conquest, but through determination. Why every other peaceful species in the galaxy had quietly allied with Earth. The sleeping giant was waking up, and it was angry. Admiral Jai-Yun Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship, Earth's Promise, watching her display screen. Dozens of blue dots showed Earth ships moving into position. None of them had weapons showing. None of them looked threatening. They just happened to be stopping at key points in space, like pieces on a game board. "Status report," she said quietly. 7th Fleet is in position. Admiral, her second-in-command, reported. "All ships report ready. The Araxians haven't noticed anything unusual yet." In the United Earth Government building in Geneva, 200 representatives from Earth's nations sat in emergency session. The room was unusually quiet. On the main screen, the video of He-Jin played one more time. President Tadwan Kim stood up slowly. He was an old man who had seen many wars and had always chosen peace, but now his hands were shaking. "All in favor of activating the defense protocol, raise your hands," he said. Every hand in the room went up. On Mars Colony, the biggest factories started changing their production lines. Workers who made cars now made ship parts. People who built house robots now built different kinds of robots. No announcements were made. No warnings were given. It just happened. In orbit around Jupiter, Earth's secret shipyards woke up. Ships that had been hiding in the gas giant storms began to move. They were Earth's newest vessels, ones that no other species knew about. Ships that could become invisible, ships that could move faster than anyone thought possible. Back on Station Proxima, He-Jin was drawing pictures in her room when she noticed something odd. All the human adults were walking differently. They moved faster, stood straighter, and kept checking their communication devices. Dr. Park came to her room wearing his formal uniform. "He-Jin," he said gently, "would you like to go home early?" "Did I do something wrong?" she asked, worried. He knelt beside her. "No, little one. You did nothing wrong, but some grown-ups did, and now they need to learn a lesson." In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Sun Mikang walked the speaking platform. The chamber was full of representatives from 100 alien species. The Araxian ambassador sat in his tall chair, looking bored. 3 days ago, Sun Mai said, her voice calm, a human child was bullied and hurt on Station Proxima. The Araxian Empire calls this a cultural misunderstanding. We disagree. She pressed a button, and the chamber screen showed new images. Earth ships moving into position. Factories changing their work. Military bases becoming active. Humanity has been peaceful because we choose to be. She continued. We have been kind because that is our nature. But make no mistake, we can be something else, something you won't like. The Araxian ambassador laughed. Are you threatening the mighty Araxian Empire over a child's game? Sun Ma smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. No, Ambassador, this is not a threat. This is a promise. You will apologize to He-Jin. You will punish those responsible. You will make sure this never happens again. She looked around the chamber. Because if you don't, you will learn why Earth's history books are full of stories about impossible victories, why we survived ice ages and asteroids and our own mistakes, why we reached the stars not through conquest, but through sheer, unstoppable determination. The chamber erupted in shouting, but Sun Mai had already turned to leave. As she walked out, her device beeped with a message from Admiral Lee. Ghost Fleet in position. Ready on your command. The warning signs were clear. Now the galaxy would have to choose. Apologize to one human child, or face the full might of Earth. Most species would have shown their power with weapons or threats, but humans were different. They showed their power by how long they could be peaceful, until someone gave them a reason not to be. The Ghost Fleet appeared like shadows in space. One moment, the sensors showed empty darkness. The next moment, 50 Earth ships dropped their cloaking shields. They were beautiful in a scary way, smooth black ships that seemed to drink in the light. All ships, report status. Admiral Jai-Yun Lee ordered from her command chair. Ghost Fleet ready, Admiral, came the response. Stealth systems working perfectly. The Araxians still don't see us. Across the galaxy, news channels showed pictures of He-Jin. Her small face became a symbol that everyone recognized. Some alien species laughed at first, thinking Earth was being silly about a simple bullying incident. They stopped laughing when they saw the Ghost Fleet. Dr. Daeho Park sat in his office on Station Proxima, reading reports from other human families. What he found made his blood run cold. He-Jin wasn't the first. Other human children and civilians had been bullied by Araxians, but they had been too scared to speak up. Send all of this to Earth Command, he told his computer. Every single case. In her room, He-Jin watched the stars through her window. She noticed something odd. The stars seemed to blink out for a moment, as if something big was moving in front of them. Something invisible. Earth's allies among the alien races began moving away from Araxian space. They knew something the Araxians didn't. Humans had been holding back. Way back. Did you know? A Centaurian diplomat whispered to his friend that humans invented their stealth technology 50 years ago. They just never showed it because they wanted peace. In the Araxian royal palace, the emperor watched his screens with growing worry. His best scientists were showing him things about human technology that nobody had known before. "They've been pretending, Your Highness," one scientist said, hands shaking. "All these years they acted like they were just learning space travel. But look at this." The screen showed human ships appearing and disappearing at will. It showed weapons that could shut down any shield. It showed defensive systems that made Earth's ships nearly impossible to hit. "Why didn't we know about this?" the Emperor demanded. "Because they didn't want us to know," another scientist answered. "They've been peaceful for so long. We thought they were weak. We were wrong." Admiral Lee received a message from Earth Command. She read it and smiled for the first time in days. "Send word to all ships," she ordered. "Operation Paper Tiger is now active." Across Araxian space, their military bases started having problems. Shield generators stopped working. Communication systems went quiet. No one was hurt. The bases just stopped working. Colonel Min Ho-yoon led his Special Forces team on these missions. They moved like ghosts, never seen, never caught. They didn't fire a single shot. They didn't have to. "Remember," he told his team, "we're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to show them what we could do if we wanted to." Back on Earth, people watched and waited. Parents held their children closer. Teachers used HFY Story to talk about standing up to bullies. Veterans nodded in approval at Earth's response, strong enough to make a point, careful enough to avoid war. In space, more Earth ships appeared. They formed a line between Araxian space and Station Proxima. They didn't make threats. They didn't need to. Their message was clear: never again. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Nobody was laughing at humans anymore. They had learned an important lesson. Earth wasn't just another planet of peaceful traders. It was a planet of people who had mastered the art of peace because they were so very, very good at war. Admiral Jae-yun Lee stood before the main screen of her flagship as she gave the order. "Begin Paper Tiger Protocol." Across Araxian space, lights began to flicker. On their biggest military base, every computer screen showed the same image: a small human girl with a bruised elbow, crying. In the Araxian High Command Center, generals rushed around in panic. Nothing worked right. Their mighty warships floated helplessly in space. Their weapons wouldn't turn on. Their shields were down. "How are they doing this?" An Araxian general shouted. "Where are they?" The answer came from everywhere and nowhere. Earth ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They never fired a shot. They didn't need to. Colonel Min Ho-yoon and his team walked right through the unbeatable defenses of the Araxian Military Academy. They left small devices that shut down everything electronic. As alerts blared, he placed a photograph on the headmaster's desk. HFY's school picture. "Sir," one of his soldiers whispered, "should we disable their backup systems too?" Min Ho shook his head. "No. Let them keep enough power for life support and basic needs. We're here to teach a lesson, not to hurt anyone." On Earth, President Tae-won Kim addressed the world. "Today we show the galaxy that Earth's kindness was a choice. We could have built an empire. We could have conquered worlds. Instead, we chose peace. But peace does not mean weakness." In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Sun Mei-kang played recordings from Earth's hidden satellites. They showed years of Araxian ships bullying smaller species, years of them pushing around human traders, years of them testing Earth's patience. "We saw everything," she told the silent chamber. "We watched. We waited. We hoped they would learn kindness on their own. They did not." The Araxian ambassador wasn't laughing anymore. His silver skin had turned pale as he watched his empire's defenses fall without a single shot being fired. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "Simple things," Sun Mai replied. "An apology to HFY. New laws protecting all children in space. Not just humans, all children. And a promise that this will never happen again." Dr. Park watched from Station Proxima as Earth ships formed a perfect circle around the station. Their message was clear. This station was now under Earth's protection. He-Jin sat in the station's viewing room, watching the ships appear and disappear. An alien child, not Araxian, came up to her. "Is it true?" the alien child asked. "Did your people do all this just because you were hurt?" He-Jin thought about it. "Not just for me," she said. "For everyone who was ever bullied. My dad says humans don't like bullies." Admiral Lee received reports from across Araxian space. Every military base was dark. Every warship was powerless. And not a single person had been harmed. "Message from Earth Command," her officer reported. "They're ready for Phase 2. "No," Lee said, surprising everyone. "Look at the Araxian ships. Their crew are scared. They've learned their lesson." She smiled. "Sometimes the greatest victory is the one where you don't have to fight at all." Across the galaxy, other species watched in amazement. Humans had just defeated the mighty Araxian Empire without firing a single shot. They had done it with technology no one knew they had, with ships no one could see, and with a gentleness that was somehow more frightening than any show of force. The message was clear. Earth wasn't just strong. Earth was strong enough to be kind. The Araxian Empire was changing. In the streets of their capital city, people gathered to protest against their leaders. They carried signs with He-Jin's picture and demanded changes. "We were wrong," shouted an Araxian mother at the palace gates. "Our children learned cruelty from us. This must stop." Inside the palace, the Araxian emperor sat with his advisors, watching screens showing Earth ships still hovering silently in space. None of their weapons worked. None of their shields responded. Their mighty empire had been stopped by a species they had thought was weak. "How did we make such a terrible mistake?" the emperor asked. His oldest advisor bowed his head. "We saw their kindness as weakness. We forgot the most important rule of the galaxy. Beware those who are strong enough to be gentle." In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Sun Mi-Kang presented the new Youth Protection Act. The law was simple but powerful. Any species that harmed children, any children, would face serious consequences. "Earth will enforce this law," she said firmly. "We will protect all children, not just our own. This is not a request. This is how things will be from now on." No one argued. Dr. Park sat with He-Jin in their quarters on Station Proxima, reading messages from across the galaxy. Thousands of alien children had come forward with their own stories of bullying. Each one thanked He-Jin for being brave. "Look," he said, showing her a message. "The Araxian children who hurt you want to apologize. They're asking to meet with you." He-Jin looked scared. "Do I have to?" "No," he said gently. "But sometimes being strong means giving others a chance to learn from their mistakes." In a quiet meeting room, Rix, the Araxian boy who had led the bullying, stood before He-Jin. He looked different now, smaller, less proud. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice shaking. "We thought we were better than everyone else. We were wrong. Can you ever forgive us?" He-Jin looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She smiled. "My dad says holding on to anger hurts you more than the person you're angry at," she said. "I forgive you, but you have to promise to be kind to others from now on." Admiral Jai-Yun Lee received new orders from Earth Command. Slowly, carefully, they began allowing Araxian systems to turn back on. But there was a condition. Each system would only work after the local Araxian leaders signed the Youth Protection Act. "They're signing quickly," her officer reported. "Of course they are," Lee said. "They finally understand what real power is. It's not about having the strongest weapons. It's about knowing when not to use them." On Earth, people watched as the Araxian Empire began to change. Their warships were converted into exploration vessels. Their military bases became schools and hospitals. Their children started learning about kindness instead of conquest. Ambassador Sun Mi-Kang stood at her window in the Galactic Council building, watching ships from different species fly past. Each one now carried a new symbol, a child's handprint, showing they had signed the Youth Protection Act. "Message from Earth Command," her assistant said. "They're asking if we need to keep our ships in Araxian space." Sun Mai thought about He-Jin's forgiveness, about the changes she could see happening. "No," she said, "let them go home, but leave the satellites up. Trust must be earned." Across the galaxy, species that had feared Earth now looked at humans differently. They had seen a power greater than weapons, the power of a species that would move entire fleets to protect a single child, then show mercy when they could have taken revenge. The galaxy was learning an important lesson. Never mistake kindness for weakness, especially when that kindness comes from Earth. 1 year later, He-Jin Kim stood again at the podium of the Galactic Youth Assembly. The room was different now. Children of all species sat together, not separated by their worlds or races. On the wall behind her hung a new symbol, a circle of different colored handprints around a star. "When I first came here," He-Jin said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong, "I was scared. Now I look around and I see friends, not humans or Araxians or any other species, just friends." In the audience, Dr. Park watched with pride. Next to him sat Rix, the Araxian boy who had once been a bully. Now he wore the silver badge of the Youth Protection Program, which he had helped create. "Thank you for giving me a second chance," Rix whispered to Dr. Park. "Thank He-Jin," Dr. Park replied. "She taught all of us about real strength." On Earth, Admiral Jai-Yun Lee walked through the new Galactic Peace Center, where once there had been only military maps. Now there were pictures drawn by children from 100 different worlds. The Ghost Fleet still patrolled space, but now they protected all children, not just humans. "Admiral," a young officer called out, "the new Araxian ships are requesting permission to join our patrol." Lee smiled. "Permission granted. Let's show them how to protect others." In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Sun Mei-Kang signed the final page of the Galactic Youth Rights Agreement. It was a new law that made sure no child in the galaxy would ever be bullied or hurt because of their species. "The children are our future," she said to the council. "All children, every species, every world." Back at the Youth Assembly, He-Jin showed the alien children something new, a game humans called tag. But she had changed the rules. Instead of running away from each other, the children had to run to help each other. "On Earth," she explained, "we have a saying, 'A friend in need is a friend indeed.' It means we help each other, no matter what we look like or where we come from." Dr. Park watched the children playing and typed a message to Earth. The change is real. They're learning. Not just the children. Everyone. Colonel Min Ho-yoon, who had once led secret missions against the Araxians, now trained their security forces. But he didn't teach them about weapons or war. He taught them about protection, about using strength to help others. "The strongest warrior," he told his students, "is the one who never needs to fight." In orbit around Station Proxima, human and Araxian ships patrolled together. Their crews shared meals, told stories, and learned from each other. The Araxians had discovered that friendship was better than fear. He-Jin finished her speech at the assembly with something simple. "My dad says that being strong doesn't mean being able to lift heavy things. It means being able to lift others up when they're down." The room burst into applause. Children of all species rushed to hug her. Among them was a small Araxian girl who gave He-Jin a drawing. It showed children of different species holding hands around a planet. In her office on Earth, Admiral Lee received one final report. The galaxy had changed. Species that once fought now worked together. Children who once feared each other now played together. "Should we deactivate the Ghost Fleet?" her officer asked. Lee looked at He-Jin's picture on her wall. "No," she said. "Keep them ready, not because we expect trouble, but because the best way to keep peace is to be ready to protect it." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth wasn't just another world of peaceful humans. It was a planet of people who had mastered peace because they were strong enough to be kind. And somewhere in space, a small human girl had taught the greatest powers in the galaxy that the strongest force wasn't weapons or ships or armies. It was kindness.